I can still see her face through the car window. Cold, determined. The dust from the gravel road swirling around us as she said those words. "This is where you get off." "Dad." Then she was gone, taillights disappearing around the bend, leaving me standing there with just a small suitcase and 47 years of misplaced trust. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from in the comments. The name's Robert Caldwell. 74 years old, though I was 69 when Sarah passed. We'd been married 46 years. Good years mostly, hard sometimes, but good. We raised one daughter, Melissa. Smart girl. Got her mother's looks and my stubbornness. Too much of the latter, maybe. Before Sarah died, we lived in that little blue house on Oakmont Drive in Springdale. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. A backyard big enough for Sarah's garden. She grew tomatoes that would make you weep. I kept telling her she should enter them in the county fair, but she'd just laugh and say, "What for? You're the only blue ribbon I need." I retired from the electric company in 2015 after 38 years. Started as a lineman. Ended up managing the regional grid. Never made a fortune, but we saved. Paid off the house. Put away enough that we could travel a little. Took a cruise to Alaska for our 40th. Drove down to New Orleans for our 45th. I still have the pictures in my wallet. Mornings had a rhythm after retirement. Coffee at 6:30. Toast with Sarah's homemade strawberry jam. The newspaper. Real paper, not that digital nonsense. Sarah would do her crossword puzzle. I'd check the weather, read about whatever mess the politicians were making. Then we'd plan our day. Sometimes it was just errands. Grocery store, hardware store. The garden center where Sarah would spend an hour choosing between virtually identical plants, while I pretended to be annoyed, but secretly enjoyed watching her deliberate. Other days we'd drive out to the lake. Sit on the bench overlooking the water. Hold hands like teenagers. Talk about everything or nothing. Those were good days. The best days. The cancer took her quick. 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. Pancreatic. The doctor said it was aggressive, like that wasn't obvious from the way it hollowed her out. Turned my bright, vibrant Sarah into a ghost right before my eyes. I slept in the chair beside her hospital bed those final nights. Couldn't bear to be away from her, even to shower. When she went, I was holding her hand. She looked at me, squeezed my fingers once and whispered, "Take care of our girl." Then she was gone. I tried to keep my promise. God knows I tried. Melissa and her husband Tom moved in with me after the funeral. To help out, they said. Tom had lost his job at the tech company in the city. Downsizing, he called it. Melissa was between things, whatever that meant. I was grateful for the company. The house was too quiet without Sarah. Her clothes still hung in the closet. Her garden tools still waited in the shed. I couldn't bear to move them. "We'll take care of you, Dad," Melissa said, unpacking her suitcase in the guest room. Mom would have wanted that, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my daughter. Our daughter. Sarah's final request. The first month was fine. Melissa cooked sometimes. Not like Sarah, but she tried. Tom fixed the leaky faucet in the bathroom and cleaned out the gutters. I gave them money for groceries. Let them use my car when theirs needed repairs. Started teaching Tom about the garden, though he didn't have Sarah's touch. "You should consider selling the house," Melissa said one night over dinner, 3 months after they'd moved in. "It's too big for just you. Too many stairs. Too much maintenance." "This is my home," I said simply. "Mine and your mother's." "Mom's gone, Dad," Melissa said, reaching for my hand. "She'd want you to be practical." Maybe she was right. The house did feel emptier without Sarah. The property taxes went up every year. The yard work was getting harder on my knees. "Just think about it," Tom added. "We could help you find a nice one-level place. Something easier to manage," I nodded. Said I'd consider it. And I did. For about 5 minutes. Then I looked at Sarah's reading chair by the window. The marks on the kitchen wall where we'd tracked Melissa's height as a child. The garden Sarah had tended for decades. And I knew I couldn't leave. A week later, papers appeared on the kitchen table. "Just some things to look over," Tom said casually. Power of attorney. Medical directives. Updated will. Standard stuff for someone in your position. "My position?" I asked, not touching the papers. "A widower living alone," Melissa clarified. "Cares for your protection, Dad. So we can help manage things if you get sick or confused." I'd never been confused a day in my life, but I took the papers and promised to read them. That night I called my old friend Jack. He'd been a lawyer before retirement. Asked him to come by the next day while Melissa and Tom were out. Jack read through the documents, his face growing darker with each page. "Don't sign these, Bob," he said finally. "This isn't protection. This is a transfer of assets. They're trying to get control of everything." "Everything?" "The house, your savings, your pension, everything." I couldn't believe it, didn't want to believe it. But Jack pointed to specific clauses, explained the legal terminology in plain English. They weren't looking out for me. They were setting me up. "What do I do?" I asked. "First, you hide these papers. Act like you never saw them. Then you need to protect yourself legally. I know someone who can help." The next morning, while Tom and Melissa were still sleeping, I drove to the bank, moved half my savings to a new account they couldn't access, called a lawyer Jack recommended, made an appointment for the following week. I was just being cautious, I told myself. Melissa was still my daughter. There had to be an explanation. That night at dinner, Melissa asked about the papers. "Still looking them over," I lied. "Just want to make sure I understand everything." She smiled, but something was off. A tightness around her eyes I'd never noticed before. Or maybe I just never wanted to see it. "Take your time," Tom said, pouring himself another glass of my whiskey. No rush, but there was a rush. I could feel it. The subtle shift in the air when I entered a room. The way conversations stopped. The phone calls they took outside. Something was happening, and I was the only one not in on it. 2 days later, I found Melissa in Sarah's closet, sorting through her jewelry. "What are you doing?" I asked from the doorway. She startled, nearly dropping the pearl necklace I'd given Sarah on our 25th anniversary. "Just organizing," she said quickly. "Thought it might be time to donate some things to charity." "I'll decide when it's time," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Put everything back." That night I heard them arguing in their room. Couldn't make out all the words, but I caught phrases. "Moving too fast. Getting suspicious. Need to be careful." I doubled my efforts with the lawyer, created a trust they couldn't touch, updated my will to protect Sarah's belongings, installed new locks on my bedroom door and home office, told the neighbors to keep an eye out, though I didn't explain why. A week later, Melissa found me in the garden kneeling by Sarah's rose bushes. "Dad," she said, sitting on the bench nearby, "we need to talk about the future." "I'm listening," I said, not looking up from the soil. "Tom got a job offer. In Arizona. Good money, benefits, we're thinking about taking it." I nodded, relief washing over me. If they moved away, maybe things could go back to normal. Maybe I'd been paranoid after all. "We want you to come with us," she continued. "We've already looked at assisted living facilities near the new house. Really nice places with people your age." My hands froze in the dirt. "Assisted living? You can't stay here alone, Dad. It's not safe." "You're getting older. What if you fall? What if you get sick? Mom would want you to be safe." There it was again. Sarah's wishes being twisted to serve their purposes. I stood up slowly, brushing dirt from my hands. "I'm not going to Arizona," I said, "and I'm not going to any facility. This is my home." Melissa's face hardened. "Don't be stubborn, Dad. This isn't about what you want. It's about what's best for you." "And who decides that?" "You and Tom." "The same people who've been going through my wife's jewelry. Who've been trying to get me to sign over my house and savings." Her eyes widened, then narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're confused." "I'm not confused, Melissa. I'm disappointed." She stood up, hands clenched at her sides. "Fine, stay here. Fall down the stairs. Forget to turn off the stove. See if I care." She stormed inside. That night dinner was silent. The next morning, I found a brochure for Sunset Pines Assisted Living on my nightstand. The day after, another set of papers appeared. The day after that, Tom's parents came to visit, eyeing the house like they were already measuring for new curtains. I knew then what I had to do. The lawyer helped me set everything up. A trust for the house. New accounts they couldn't access. Security cameras installed discreetly around the property. I even hired a home health aide to come by 3 times a week, not because I needed help, but to have a witness to my mental clarity and physical capability. A week later, Sarah's life insurance check arrived. A substantial sum, more than enough to secure my future. I deposited it into the new protected account. That night at dinner I mentioned I had to meet with the insurance company the next day. "I'll drive you," Melissa offered immediately, too quickly. That would be helpful, I said, noticing the look she exchanged with Tom. The next morning I packed a small suitcase while they were in the shower. Just essentials, clothes, medication, a few photos. Sarah's wedding ring on a chain around my neck. I hid it in the trunk of Melissa's car while she was getting ready. We drove to the insurance office in silence. I signed the paperwork, collected an envelope, empty but they didn't know that, and got back in the car. As we pulled out of the parking lot, Melissa made an unexpected turn. "Where are we going?" I asked. "This isn't the way home." "Just a quick detour," she said, not meeting my eyes. "There's something Tom and I want to show you." We drove for almost an hour. Past the city limits, through countryside I didn't recognize. Finally, she turned onto a narrow gravel road that wound through dense trees. After about a mile, she stopped the car. "What's this place?" I asked, looking around at nothing but woods and undergrowth. "This," she said, turning to face me, "is where you get off." "Dad," I stared at her, not comprehending. "Get out," she said, her voice flat. "The insurance money. Hand it over and then get out. Melissa, don't Melissa me. We've put up with you for months. Listened to you talk about Mom like you were some kind of saint to her. We know better. We know what you did, what I did. To Mom, to the family. All those years of controlling everything, everyone. Making Mom depend on you, making me feel small. It ends today, the money. Now." I reached slowly into my pocket and pulled out the envelope, handed it to her, watched as she tore it open, her face changing as she found only blank paper inside. "It's in a trust," I said quietly, "for your children, if you ever have any. You can't touch it. Neither can Tom." Her face contorted with rage. "Get out. Get out now." I reached for the door handle. "Your mother loved you, Melissa. She believed in you. What happened to that girl? She grew up. She saw the truth. Now get out before I leave you somewhere no one will find you." I stepped out of the car, retrieving my hidden suitcase from the trunk before she could stop me. As I closed the trunk, our eyes met through the rear window. For a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw something like shame in her face. Then it hardened again. "This is where you get off, Dad," she said through the open window. Then she gunned the engine, spraying gravel as she turned around and sped away. I stood there in the dust watching until her car disappeared. Then I pulled out my cell phone, the one she didn't know I had, and called Jack. "She did it," I said when he answered. "Just like we thought she would." "The GPS tracker is working," he replied. "Police are already on their way to intercept her. Are you okay? Do you need me to come get you?" "I'm fine," I said, sitting down on my suitcase. "Just sad. So damn sad." As I waited for Jack to arrive, I looked up at the blue sky above the trees, the same sky Sarah and I had sat under for so many years. The same sky that had watched over us through joy and sorrow. "I tried, Sarah," I whispered. I really tried. Jack's pickup truck appeared around the bend 20 minutes later, dust billowing behind it like a storm cloud. I was still sitting on my suitcase, turning Sarah's wedding ring between my fingers, wondering where I'd gone wrong as a father. "Jesus Christ, Bob," Jack said, climbing out of his truck. His face was flushed with anger. "She really did it. She really left you out here in the middle of nowhere." I nodded, too tired to speak. Jack helped me load my suitcase into the truck bed. My knees creaked as I climbed into the passenger seat. The air conditioning hit me like a blessing. "Police caught up with her about 10 miles from here," Jack said as we pulled back onto the main road. "They're bringing her in for questioning. Tom, too. What will happen to them?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears. "Hollow, elder abandonment. Attempted financial exploitation. Hey, it's all documented. The lawyers got everything lined up." Jack glanced at me. "You sure you want to press charges?" Did I? This was Melissa, my little girl. The same child who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms. Who cried when I taught her to ride a bike, and she scraped her knee. Who danced with me at her wedding while Sarah wiped away tears. "I don't know," I admitted. "You don't have to decide right now." Jack patted my shoulder. "Let's get you settled first." We drove to Jack's lake house. His wife Martha had the guest room ready. Clean sheets, fresh towels, a home-cooked meal waiting on the stove. They treated me like I might shatter if they spoke too loudly. Maybe they were right. That night I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing Melissa's face through the car window. The coldness in her eyes. "This is where you get off, Dad. My own child. Sarah's child How had we created someone capable of that? Morning brought clarity, if not peace. I called the lawyer from Jack's porch, watching the sunlight dance across the lake. I don't want to press charges, I told him. Not yet. Mr. Caldwell, what they did— I know what they did, I interrupted. But I need to understand why. Before I make any decisions, the lawyer sighed. They'll be released today, but the police report exists. We can move forward any time in the next year if you change your mind. I spent the next week at Jack and Martha's, sleeping too much, eating too little, remembering, thinking. The more distance I got from that gravel road, the more clearly I could see the signs I'd missed, like the Christmas 5 years ago when Sarah was still alive. Melissa and Tom arrived late, stayed only 2 hours. Tom spent the whole time checking his watch. Sorry, Dad, Melissa had said as they rushed out the door. We promised Tom's parents we'd have dinner with them. Sarah had smiled and hugged her. Of course, sweetheart. Family comes first. But I remembered something else now. The whispered argument I'd overheard between them in the hallway. Tom's impatient, they're just your parents. It's not like we're getting anything out of this visit. Melissa's hushed, shut up. They might hear you. I'd dismissed it then. Told myself he was just anxious about missing dinner with his family. Now I wondered if Tom had always seen us as nothing but potential assets, or the time Sarah was first diagnosed. We'd called Melissa immediately, expecting her to come home. She didn't, sent flowers instead. Called every few days for brief updates. She's busy with her life, Robert, Sarah had defended her. We can't expect her to drop everything. But wasn't that exactly what family did in a crisis? Drop everything? After 10 days at Jack's, I decided it was time to go home. Jack drove me there, concern etched into the lines around his eyes. You sure about this? He asked as we pulled into my driveway. You could stay with us longer, or I could stay here with you for a few days. I need to do this on my own, I said, though my stomach knotted at the sight of the empty house. But thank you for everything. The house felt wrong when I stepped inside, like someone had moved all the furniture an inch to the left. Everything familiar yet disorienting. Melissa and Tom had cleaned out their room, taken some things that weren't theirs too. Sarah's antique clock from the mantel, the silver candlesticks from the dining room, small betrayals on top of the larger one. I wandered through each room, touching door frames, table edges, windowsills, reclaiming my space. In the kitchen, I found a stack of mail the neighbors had collected. Bills, advertisements, and an envelope with the return address of Sunset Pines Assisted Living. Inside was a receipt. Deposit paid for one resident, Robert Caldwell. Move-in date scheduled for 3 days after I'd been abandoned on that road. My hands shook as I set the paper down. They'd planned it all. Get the insurance money. Force me into a facility. Probably sell the house while I was safely tucked away. They'd arranged everything down to the last detail. The phone rang, startling me so badly I knocked over a glass. I let it go to voicemail. When the machine beeped, Melissa's voice filled the kitchen. Dad, it's me. We need to talk. What you told the police. It's all a misunderstanding. Call me back. A misunderstanding. Is that what we were calling attempted elder abuse these days? I didn't call her back. Not that day. Not the next. Each morning there'd be another message. Each one more desperate than the last. Dad, please. You're making this into something it wasn't. Dad, Tom's boss is asking questions. This could cost him his job. Dad, I'm your daughter. You can't do this to me. I deleted each one without response. A week after I returned home, there was a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw Tom's parents standing on my porch, Harold and Diane. I'd met them maybe 5 times over the years. They'd always been cool towards Sarah and me. Now they were on my doorstep, faces arranged in expressions of concern. I considered not answering. Then curiosity got the better of me. Harold, Diane. I nodded, not inviting them in. Robert, Diane said, clutching her purse like it might escape. We've been so worried. May we come in? I stepped back, allowing them into the living room. Didn't offer coffee, didn't invite them to sit. They perched awkwardly on the edge of the sofa anyway. This whole situation, Harold began, clearing his throat. It's been blown out of proportion, don't you think? Has it? I crossed my arms. My daughter drove me to the middle of nowhere, demanded money and abandoned me on a dirt road. Which part is being exaggerated? Diane leaned forward. Melissa says you've been confused lately, paranoid, making accusations. Did she mention the power of attorney form she tried to get me to sign? Or the assisted living facility she paid a deposit for without my knowledge? They exchanged glances. "Robert," Harold said carefully, "after Sarah passed, we all noticed changes in you. Perfectly understandable changes, of course. Grief affects people differently." "I'm not confused," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not paranoid. And I'm not giving up my home or my independence because my daughter and her husband want my money." "That's a terrible accusation," Diane said, hand fluttering to her throat. "They were trying to help by abandoning me on a dirt road." Another exchanged glance. "There must be more to that story," Harold insisted. "Melissa would never—" "She did." I walked to the door and opened it. "I think it's time for you to leave." Harold stood, face reddening. "Now see here." "No, you see." I stepped closer, surprising myself with my own anger. "Your son and my daughter tried to steal from me, tried to put me away. When that didn't work, they abandoned me and hoped I'd die of exposure. Those are facts, not confusion. Now get out of my house." They left, muttering about lawyers and mental competency hearings. I watched them drive away, heart hammering in my chest. That night I pulled out the old photo albums, turned pages slowly, tracing Sarah's face in each picture. Our wedding day, Melissa's birth. Family vacations, school plays, graduations, a lifetime of moments captured in fading photographs. I studied Melissa's face through the years, the gap-toothed smile of childhood, the sullen pout of adolescence, the confident grin of her college graduation. When had she changed? When had the daughter we raised become someone who could leave her father stranded on a dirt road? Maybe she'd always been that person, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. 2 days later, my home health aide, Nancy, arrived for her regular visit. She'd been coming 3 times a week since before the incident. "Part of my documentation plan, Mr. Caldwell," she said when I opened the door. "You're back. We were all so worried when your daughter said you'd gone to Arizona suddenly." "Arizona?" I stepped back to let her in. "When did she tell you that?" "Last week. She came by to collect some of your things. Said you'd moved into a lovely retirement community near her new home." Nancy set her bag down, studying my face. "But that's not what happened, is it?" I told her everything. The attempted financial manipulation, the abandonment, the police. By the time I finished, Nancy's face had hardened into a mask of professional anger. "That's elder abuse, Mr. Caldwell. Plain and simple." She pulled out her phone. "I need to report this. It's my legal obligation. More documentation, more evidence." Part of me wanted to tell her no, to handle this privately. But the other part, the part that still felt the gravel under my shoes as Melissa drove away, nodded in agreement. That afternoon, I received a text from Melissa. "The first direct communication since that day. We need to talk. Just us, no police, no lawyers." "Please, Dad." I stared at the message for a long time, wondered what she wanted, what she could possibly say to explain what she'd done. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me needed answers. I typed back, "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. The park bench by the lake." It was a public place. People would be around, safe. Her response came immediately. "Thank you, I didn't sleep that night." Kept rehearsing what I'd say, what I'd ask. By morning I was exhausted but resolved. I needed to face her, needed to understand. The lake was busy when I arrived. Families picnicking, children playing, elderly couples walking hand in hand. I sat on our usual bench, the one where Sarah and I had spent countless hours watching the water, and waited. Melissa arrived 10 minutes late. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, eyes red and puffy. She'd lost weight. "Dad," she said, hovering uncertainly before sitting beside me. "Not too close, Melissa." I didn't look at her. Kept my eyes on the water. "I don't know where to start," she said after a long silence. "How about with why?" I finally turned to her. "Why would you leave your own father stranded on a dirt road?" She flinched. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." "How was it supposed to happen?" "You were supposed to sign the papers. Go to Sunset Pines. Everything would have been easier." "Easier for who?" "Not for me. You don't understand." She twisted her hands in her lap. "Tom's in trouble. Serious trouble. Gambling debts. Bad investments. We owe people. Dangerous people." I thought of all the money I'd given them over the months. The loans that were never repaid. The increased grocery budgets. The car repairs. All of it going to pay off Tom's debts, apparently. So you decided to solve your problems by stealing from me, by forcing me into a home, by taking everything Sarah and I built together. We were desperate, she whispered. Those men threatened us, threatened our lives, and mine didn't matter. She looked away. You're old, Dad. You've lived your life. The words hit me like physical blows. I'd lived my life, as if the remaining years were negligible, as if I were already a ghost just waiting for the formality of death. Your mother's last words were about you, I said quietly. Did you know that? She made me promise to take care of you. Her final thought in this world was concern for your well-being. Tears slid down Melissa's cheeks. I didn't know. Would it have mattered if you did? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. Tom's gone, she said after a while. Left 3 days ago, took what was left of our savings. Said he couldn't handle the shame, the potential charges. I felt no satisfaction at this news. Just more sadness piled on an already crushing weight. What will you do? I asked. I don't know. The men he owes, they're still coming for their money. That's not my problem anymore, I said, surprised by my own hardness. You made your choice, Melissa. On that road, Dad, please. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was scared. I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to plan everything down to the last detail. The power of attorney. The assisted living facility. The life insurance. The remote road. I stood up. I'm not pressing charges, not yet. But I'm not helping you either. Dad, I loved you every day of your life, Melissa. Without condition. Without expectation. I would have given you anything you needed if you'd just asked. Instead, you tried to take everything, including my dignity. I turned to leave. That's something I can't forgive, not now. Maybe not ever, she called after me as I walked away. I heard her voice break on my name. But I didn't turn around. Couldn't. The gulf between us was too wide to cross with words alone. That night I sat in Sarah's reading chair by the window, a glass of her favorite wine in my hand. I failed you, I whispered to her memory. I couldn't take care of our girl. I imagined Sarah sitting across from me, that practical look on her face. You didn't fail, she would have said. She made her choices. Adult choices. Now she has to live with adult consequences. The phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Finally I picked up. It wasn't Melissa. It was Jack, his voice urgent. Bob, you need to turn on the news. Channel 8, right now. I fumbled for the remote, switched on the television. The local news was running a breaking story. Police cars, flashing lights. A familiar apartment building. 3 arrested in connection with illegal gambling operation and loan sharking, the reporter was saying. Among those taken into custody were Thomas Bennett and Melissa Bennett, formerly Caldwell. I sank back into the chair, the phone slipping from my fingers. My daughter, in handcuffs, being led to a police car, her face partially hidden, but not enough to mask her devastation. I'd gotten my wish. She was facing consequences, but there was no satisfaction in it. No victory. Just another kind of loss piled atop too many others. I don't remember turning off the TV, don't remember much about that night at all. Just sitting in Sarah's chair until dawn broke, watching the shadows retreat across our living room floor. Our living room. The one she'd painted herself because we couldn't afford to hire someone. The one where we danced on our 40th anniversary when her knees were too bad for anything fancier than swaying in place. Jack called again the next morning. You okay, Bob? No, I answered honestly. Not even close to okay. They're being held without bail. The charges are serious. Money laundering, conspiracy, criminal facilitation. He paused. Elder abuse. I told you I didn't want to press charges, I said, my voice sounding distant even to my own ears. You didn't. Nancy did, your home health aide. She filed a mandatory report after your conversation. The police were already investigating Tom's connections, but her report accelerated everything. I closed my eyes, remembering Nancy's determined face as she made the call. What happens now? The district attorney wants to speak with you. Today, if possible. Your testimony could be critical. My testimony against my own daughter. Jack's sigh carried through the phone. I know it's hard, Bob, but I know what she tried to do, I cut him off. I was there, remember? Standing in the dust while she drove away. After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. The clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a lawnmower droned as a neighbor tended their yard. Normal sounds for an abnormal day. The district attorney's office was in the county courthouse, a stern brick building with too many stairs for my knees. Jack drove me there, hovering like a nervous parent as we navigated the security checkpoint and elevator. DA Claudia Martinez was younger than I expected. Maybe 40. Sharp eyes. No-nonsense handshake. The kind of woman Sarah would have approved of immediately. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. "Thank you for coming in. I know this must be difficult." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "I've reviewed the police reports and your home health aide statement. What happened to you?" She shook her head. "It's one of the worst cases of attempted elder exploitation I've seen in my career." "She's my daughter," I said simply. DA Martinez leaned forward. "Which makes it worse, not better, Mr. Caldwell. Family members are supposed to protect each other, not prey on each other." She explained the charges against Melissa and Tom, how the investigation had revealed connections to an organized gambling ring, how they'd accumulated over $200,000 in debt, how they'd planned to use my life insurance and house to pay it off. "We found text messages," she said, sliding a folder across the desk, "between your daughter and Mr. Bennett, dating back 6 months. They detail their plans quite explicitly. I stared at the folder but didn't open it. Didn't need to see the words to know what they contained. The betrayal was already carved into my heart. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Your testimony, your experience in your own words. It would make our case significantly stronger." "And if I don't testify?" She sat back, studying me. "We still have a case. The abandonment is documented, the GPS data from your phone and your daughter's car, the assisted living deposit, the attempted power of attorney. But without your testimony, they might get reduced sentences." "How long would they serve?" "With my testimony, Mr. Bennett is looking at 10-15 years minimum. Ms. Bennett, given her direct relation to you and the abandonment charge, 8-12 years. 8 to 12 years. My daughter behind bars until she was nearly 50. The thought hollowed me out from the inside. "Can I think about it?" DA Martinez nodded. "Of course. But we'll need your decision within 2 weeks. The grand jury convenes after that." Jack was quiet as we drove home. Finally, as we pulled into my driveway, he asked, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." I stared at the house, at Sarah's garden now overgrown with weeds. "I honestly don't know. That night I did something I hadn't done since Sarah died. I pulled her old Bible from the nightstand drawer. Sarah had been the religious one in our marriage. Church every Sunday. Prayer before meals. I'd gone along out of respect for her, but faith had always been harder for me. The Bible fell open to a passage she'd underlined years ago. Proverbs. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. I traced Sarah's neat pencil mark under the words. What would she tell me to do? Forgive, testify? Where was the line between justice and mercy? 3 days later, another visitor arrived. Not Jack, not the district attorney. Tom's mother, Diane. Alone this time, Robert, she said when I opened the door. No pretense of warmth now, just desperation. May I come in? I let her in, more out of curiosity than hospitality. She perched on the edge of the sofa just like before, but the arrogance was gone. In its place was something raw, something broken. I need to ask you something, she said, hands twisting in her lap, and I need you to be honest with me. I waited, saying nothing. Did you know? Her voice cracked. About Tom's gambling? Before all this? No. The word hung between us. Did you? She closed her eyes briefly. Yes, since he was in college. We bailed him out so many times, paid off debts, put him through rehab twice. Nothing worked, and you never warned us? Before he married my daughter? We thought he'd changed. A tear slid down her cheek. Or we wanted to believe he had. By the time we realized he hadn't, they were already married, already in debt. We couldn't help anymore. We'd spent our retirement trying to fix him. I thought of all the signs I'd missed, the unexplained absences, the constant money problems, the way Tom would disappear during family gatherings, always with a different excuse. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because I need to know if you're going to testify. She met my gaze directly. If you do, they'll both go to prison for a very long time. That seems to be what they deserve. She nodded slowly. Perhaps it is. But there's something else you should know, something they didn't tell you. My chest tightened. What? Melissa is pregnant. 3 months along? The room seemed to tilt beneath me. A grandchild. Sarah's grandchild. Our grandchild. Growing up with a mother in prison, she found out the week before. Diane hesitated. Before what happened on that road. She was going to tell you, but then everything with Tom's debts escalated. That doesn't excuse what she did, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. No, it doesn't. Diane stood up. Nothing excuses it, but I thought you should know everything before you decide. A child is going to be born into this mess. Your grandchild. After she left, I sat in silence, trying to process this new information. A baby. An innocent life connected to mine by blood and history. What would Sarah say now? The next morning I called D.A. Martinez. I need to see my daughter. The county jail was cold, institutional, the kind of place that strips away dignity by design. I sat at a metal table waiting. When they brought Melissa in, the sight of her hit me like a physical blow. Orange jumpsuit hanging loose on her frame. Hair pulled back severely. Face pale and drawn. No makeup, no jewelry. And her eyes, God, her eyes looked like she'd aged 20 years in 2 weeks. Dad. Her voice was barely a whisper. Melissa. I kept my hands folded on the table. Didn't reach for her. Couldn't. I didn't think you'd come, neither did I. She glanced around at the guards, the cameras. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am. Your mother-in-law came to see me, I said. Told me about the baby. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. Still flat. No visible sign of life, is it true? I asked. She nodded. 12 weeks yesterday. Were you ever going to tell me? I wanted to. Before everything went wrong. Before Tom's people started threatening us. She looked down at her hands. Then it all happened so fast. The debts, the threats, the plan. The plan to steal from me, to abandon me. We never meant to hurt you, she whispered, just to get the money, to pay them off, to disappear. But you did hurt me, Melissa. Not just physically, leaving me on that road. You broke something between us, something I don't know how to fix. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't expect you to fix it. I don't expect forgiveness. I need to know what you're going to do. The DA said your testimony could put us away for more than a decade. Would that be justice? I asked. For what you did? She didn't answer right away, just stared at her hands. Finally, she looked up. Yes, she said softly. It probably would be. The honesty surprised me. Maybe the first real honesty between us in years. What about the baby? I asked. Tom's parents might take it. Or foster care. Her voice broke. I don't have any good options, Dad. I thought of Sarah then. Her hand in mine as she slipped away. Take care of our girl. Had this been what she meant? Not just in life, but in the worst moments. When our girl needed care most, even if she didn't deserve it. I'll think about it, I said, standing up. That's all I can promise right now. The decision weighed on me for days. I barely ate, barely slept, just moved through the empty house like a ghost, asking questions no one could answer. Then one morning I woke up knowing what I had to do. The grand jury was scheduled for Tuesday. I arrived early, met with D.A. Martinez in her office. She had the paperwork ready. My testimony, the evidence. Everything laid out in neat legal language that couldn't possibly capture the pain behind the words. Are you ready, Mr. Caldwell? She asked. I need to tell you something first, I said. Something that might change things. Her expression grew cautious. Go on. I don't want to testify against my daughter. Mr. Caldwell, let me finish. I don't want to testify against her, but I will tell the truth about what happened, all of it, including the parts that explain without excusing. What does that mean exactly? It means I want a deal. For Melissa, not for Tom. She studied me for a long moment. What kind of deal? Probation, supervised release, community service. Whatever you call it when someone doesn't go to prison but still faces consequences. That's a significant reduction, Mr. Caldwell. The abandonment alone. She's pregnant, I interrupted. My grandchild. Sarah's grandchild. I can't be responsible for that baby being born in prison or growing up in foster care. D.A. Martinez leaned back in her chair. And Mr. Bennett? I have nothing to offer him, I said simply. He can face whatever the law demands. She considered this for what felt like an eternity. I'll need to speak with the judge. Make some calls. I can't promise anything. I understand. 2 hours later, I sat in the witness chair, my hand on Sarah's Bible. Swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I did. I told them about Sarah's death, about the grief, about Melissa and Tom moving in, about the manipulation and the papers and the insurance, then about the dirt road and the abandonment. I told them about Tom's gambling and the threats against my daughter, about her pregnancy and my grandchild. I told them everything, my voice steady, my eyes moving between the jury and my daughter's downturned face at the defense table. When it was over, when the last question had been asked and answered, the judge called a recess. The lawyers huddled. Papers were signed. Voices murmured in hushed legal terminology. By day's end, it was done. Tom received 12 years. No possibility of parole for at least 8. Melissa received 5 years probation, mandatory counseling, community service working with elderly victims of abuse, an ankle monitor, weekly check-ins, and one more condition. I would have guardianship of the baby until Melissa completed her probation. My grandchild would live with me, would know me, would grow up in the house Sarah and I had built together. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. Mr. Caldwell, how do you feel about the sentence? Mr. Caldwell, will you ever forgive your daughter? Mr. Caldwell, what happens now? I didn't answer any of them. Just walked to Jack's truck, climbed in, and let him drive me home. You okay? He asked as we pulled away. No, I said honestly, but maybe someday. 6 months later, Sarah Rose Caldwell was born. 6 pounds, 4 ounces, a tuft of dark hair like her grandmother's. My daughter cried when she placed the baby in my arms. Not from joy, though there was some of that. From the knowledge of what she'd almost thrown away, what she was still working to earn back. She has Mom's eyes, Melissa whispered. Yes, I agreed, studying the tiny face. She does. Forgiveness didn't come all at once. It came in small moments, spread across months and years, in Melissa's steady adherence to her probation requirements, in her genuine work with elderly abuse victims, in her tears when she finally read the text messages she'd sent Tom about me. I don't recognize that person, she said one evening, sitting in my kitchen, while little Sarah slept in the portable crib nearby. I don't know how I became her. One choice at a time, I said. That's how we become anyone. She nodded, understanding the broader truth in those words. The path back would be the same. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one act of restitution after another. I'm 77 now. Little Sarah is 3. She toddles through Sarah's garden, pointing at butterflies, asking endless questions in her small, determined voice. Melissa lives in the apartment above the garage, works part-time at the senior center, comes home every night to help with dinner and Sarah's bath time. Some days I still see that dirt road in my dreams, still feel the betrayal like an open wound. But those days grow fewer. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to build something new on ground that pain once scorched bare. If there's anything I've learned from all this, it's that family isn't just blood and shared history. It's daily choices. It's deciding who deserves our trust and who must earn it back. It's protecting the vulnerable, whether that's an aging parent or a newborn child. It's remembering that we're all capable of terrible mistakes and genuine redemption. Sometimes, standing in Sarah's garden with our granddaughter, I imagine my wife beside us. I can almost hear her voice on the breeze. You did good, Robert. You took care of our girl after all, just not in the way either of us expected. And maybe that's the lesson in all of this. Love doesn't always look like we think it should. Sometimes it's firm boundaries and hard consequences. Sometimes it's second chances and measured trust. Sometimes it's simply standing your ground when someone tries to tell you where to get off. If you liked this story, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments how you'd rate this story from 0 to 10. Your support helps me keep telling these stories, and I'm grateful for every one of you who takes the time to listen.